First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
John Decker's on the line right now. John, good morning. Are you a fan of liverwurst?
I am not a fan of liverwurst. It is not one of those items that I ever want to eat for dinner. So,
okay, all right.
I'm with you, John.
John, are you Jewish?
I am, absolutely.
And I wonder, is liverwurst okay for, is it kosher?
I don't even know.
He hates it so much he's never even looked into it.
About a food that I do not, include in my diet. So I'm not going to be able to answer
Well,
that.
being on the keto diet, anything that has anything to do with meat, I'm all about it. So liverwurst, it's, I try to get some sort of variety. So anyway, listen.
That is variety.
It is a variety. And those who hate it well. And you may be one of those people. All right. John, of course, is the chief White House correspondent for Gray TV and is on the line now. Last week predicted that there would be a deal on infrastructure, and I think we're getting pretty close to that deal right now, right?
Well, that's right. It cleared a procedural hurdle yesterday. 67 senators voted to move this bill forward, and included among those senators was Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell voted to move it forward procedurally. Interestingly enough, the number 2 Republican in the Senate, John Thune, voted against moving this bill forward procedurally, and it's rare that you have the leadership in the Republican Party voting differently on the same piece of legislation. But it's a big victory for President Biden. We're talking about infrastructure, is focused on our traditional notions of infrastructure, rebuilding America's roads, highways, bridges, broadband, the electrical grid, not the so-called human infrastructure bill, $3.5 trillion, and I don't think that bill will go forward. I just don't see that possibility through the reconciliation process.
Right. What do you? It was interesting because AOC, there were protesters that were criticizing AOC because of the lack of the liberal agenda being pushed forward.
Well, that's right. To a certain extent, you have in the Senate Bernie Sanders going along with this smaller scale infrastructure bill. He's, I think, the leader for the progressives in Congress. But AOC is going to be, I think, a difficult person to contend with, because once it gets through the Senate, I think it will, it needs to go through the House. You need to have every Democrat on board. And what's AOC? What are the progressives going to do? I think they're going to back down, quite frankly. I think they're going to go along with this just to pass a bill that they, quite frankly, are not happy about.
Well, this is where I would think you're going to see Biden have to use his negotiating abilities. It's always said that Obama used to use him just for that purpose, that instead of the Barack Obama going in and trying to lobby for certain measures, he'd send in Biden, because Biden has that ability, knows Congress and all of that. He's going to be needed here to deal with his own party.
He does. And, Kristen Sinema is one of those individuals. She's a Democrat from Arizona. She met with President Biden earlier this week at the White House. Manchin has met with President Biden a few times at the White House, not this past week. But those are 2 of the senators that have, over the next 2 years at least, Bill, a lot of power because of the fact that the Senate is divided 50-50. We don't know what's going to happen in the midterms. I look at it really closely. I always look at the Senate because I know the Senate really well. And I think it comes down to two races. That's it in terms of who controls the Senate. Pennsylvania and Ohio, and both of those Senate races are open seats because you have Rob Portman retiring in Ohio. You have Pat Toomey retiring, both Republicans. He's from Pennsylvania, so that'll be interesting to watch.
I am of the belief that I don't think we're going to see a huge sweeping change during the midterms because of we're still so very polarized.
We are.
Just like the general election, and I don't see much change from that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree. When you're talking about just 2 seats, that's the way I see it. Determining the fate of the Senate and who controls it. Yeah, you're right. It's really divided. The House is different in the sense that, first of all, I don't know every House member. I mean, 435. I don't know every House member or every House seat. But historically, the party in power loses seats in the House during the midterms. If history's any guide, that's not good news for Joe Biden when you're talking about very small margins. And that's why, you see Kevin McCarthy very confident about winning back the House in the midterm elections, which will be here before you know it.
John, as always, we appreciate it. We'll do it again next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Have a great day. Enjoy that liverwurst.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. John Decker from Great. Thank you, from Great TV.